Hey everyone, David A. Cox here with PCClassesOnline.com, and before we begin, I need your feedback on something. So we are at a stage right now, we broke 100,000 followers on YouTube, which is amazing. It's incredible to me, never even thought we would get this far. And we're trying to kind of now alter things, find the beat, and have some consistency. So we're kind of going back and forth between two different methods to start our videos. In scenario one would be me in front of a green screen. We already have all of that technology. It's not a problem for us to do that. Option two is you basically see me here at my desk, similarly to what we did before. My office is under a little bit of construction, hence why you're looking at me right now through my webcam. So the video quality, I'm sure, is A+. But anyways, kind of curious to hear your feedback. So tell us, desk, green screen, which do you prefer? Anyways, today we are talking, of course, about how to back up your data. This class was recorded live earlier today. We had an audience tuning in from all over the world. A lot of fun. If you've never taken one of our live classes, I encourage you to do so. They're free, and you can find out more on our website, of course, at PCClassesOnline.com. So without any further ado, here is how to back up your data, both on a Mac and a PC, coming up next on PCClassesOnline.com. Hello everyone and welcome to the class. David A. Cox here with PCClassesOnline.com. We are live right now. We have people tuning in from all over the world. Let's see. I see people from all over the US, Canada, the UK. We have a couple of our regulars, Craig from Kuwait tuning in from across the pond, and several others here. And today we're talking about backup solutions for both Mac and Windows computers. So basically my goal today is just to present to all of you several different possible solutions for how to back up your data. A couple things before we begin is that I want to mention the ultimate backup solution means that you have to be able to protect yourself against every theoretical disaster out there. So for example, if you are just backing up your computer to, let's say, a thumb drive, okay, also known as a flash drive. If you have a fire, both your computer and that flash drive are going bye-bye. So what I want to do is really give you multiple options here and encourage all of you to pick two. Okay, one which gives you a local backup solution so that if something happens, or when something happens to your computer's hard drive, whether that's a Mac or a PC, you have an immediate way to get back up and running and also restore your data. But then also another solution so that, God forbid, if you had a fire, if you had a flood, if your computer was stolen, you could still get your data back through some sort of cloud storage or other solution that's a little bit similar to that. So we're going to kind of jump around here between different services. Also, it should be noted, a lot of the different online backup services are both available for Mac and Windows. So even though I'm showing you this on a Mac, understand PC owners, it's the exact same thing. Okay, the concept is all the same. So the first thing I want to talk about is the best solution that I tend to recommend for the clients that I work with who are Apple customers. And actually, if you go to our website, I literally last night finished the recording of this class, and it has to do with a specific kind of device made for the Mac called a time capsule. And a time capsule, if you don't have one, you can find it, of course, in the PC Classes Online store. It's this little box, and it's a 2-in-1 device. It will both back up your computer. It'll actually back up multiple Apple computers. It will not back up a Windows computer, but it will also act as a wireless router. And if you need maybe a slightly better router than what you have now, and you need a backup hard drive, that is the best option. Now, because I just recorded an entire class on how to set it up, including the installation, programming it, everything, and even some tricks to modify it, I'm not going to really go over that. What I will do is when this class is produced and published on both YouTube and our website, you will, of course, see links to everything I mentioned in the description of the video, which brings me to a very important point. I like to bring this up occasionally. When we record videos, I always give all of you hyperlinks to everything that I discuss, whether it's an online website or a product. There is a reason for that. And the big reason is this. A lot of software out there, for example, which one was I just, Hazel is a piece of software for the Mac we're going over towards the end of today's class. If you Google a lot of these products, there are scams that are out there where they will try to make their software look like what it is you're looking for. And then when you download it, it's either some sort of adware or malware and can cause harm to your computer. So I take the time to go out and retrieve the direct link to their website. So I just encourage you all, please use that link. It's nothing shady. I do it for a reason. So with Time Machine, what's great about it is Time Machine is a piece of software that is built into the Mac, and it will basically back up your Mac to either an external hard drive or the device I just mentioned, a time capsule. Now, if you do decide to use Time Machine, which I would very, very strongly encourage for Mac users as their primary backup, one of the things I like to make you aware of is that not all hard drives out there are made equally. In fact, I'm actually going to pull up an additional website to what I had intended on showing you all here. So, for example, and please understand, this is my opinion. Okay, I do private one-on-one work with individuals, with couples, and businesses. There is one particular brand of hard drives that I discourage all of my clients from using, and it is a company by the name of LaCie. And some people pronounce it Lacey, but it's LaCie. And the reason why is I have found in my experience that LaCie uses very cheap components. Specifically, it has to do with the power component, where the hard drive can access power from the computer. It tends to blow. I have a client of mine who has a very, very large online business, and this is not an exaggeration, 20 LaCie hard drives. I believe there might be one or two that are still working, but all the others have all failed due to the same reason. So that is the reason why if you go to our website, if you go to pcclassesonline.com, you can go here and you'll notice we have both a section for PC backup drives that I recommend, as well as Mac backup drives. These are coming directly from Amazon. It's just my ability to tag the individual products so that you all have an easy way to find them. So a lot of the ones that I'm going to mention today, like for example, Seagate makes great drives. We'll talk about the Drobo later today. That's actually the last item on our list for today. But these are all very well made drives. But the important thing that you need to understand is that every single hard drive will fail. It is never if, it is only when. And for those of you who have never experienced hard drive failure, it's not fun. It's very, very expensive. The main company out there that can, you can kind of put air quotes around this, sort of bring back your data from the digital grave, their prices typically start at $800 and go upwards of $2,000 to $3,000. When you go through hard drive failure, your data does not necessarily come back the way that you're used to it. So, for example, if you had a photo of, my dad and I at the beach, it comes back as photo 00001. And it's up to you to go through those hundreds of thousands of files and sort them. Again, this is not a lesson you want to learn the hard way. So it's just important to take the steps to protect yourself. So for Mac users, the primary method you should be using is Time Machine. And one of the people who's in the live chat here had asked a question a moment ago about will Time Machine back up an iPhone or an iPad? And this was actually in the class that I just recorded, but I'll bring it up since it's relevant. So Time Machine will, technically speaking, back up your iPhone and your iPad if you back up through iTunes. So those devices, you can choose to back up through one of two methods, either through iCloud or iTunes. Now, if you back up to iTunes, that file is actually stored within the library files on your Mac. And in that case, yes, Time Machine is technically going to back that up. The reason why I don't recommend it is iCloud Drive, the new Drive feature similar to Dropbox and Google Drive out there, which we're also talking about today, is so inexpensive, it doesn't make sense to back up locally. So let me give you an example of a scenario where this is going to make sense. What if you're on vacation and you don't bring your computer and you drop your phone in the ocean? okay? Odds are, if you're like most people, you're going to go into a state of withdrawal, and B, you're going to go straight to an Apple store or an Apple dealer or a Verizon or AT&T or one of the cellular dealers, and you're going to buy a new iPhone. Well, if you don't have your computer with you and you've been backing up to iTunes, you're not going to get any of your stuff back. Whereas if you back up to iCloud, then you will. So for something like an iPhone and an iPad, the only backup that you really need is iCloud. That's it. So that being said, we're going to go over some of the other methods here. The first one is iCloud. Okay, I'm going to give you actually a few tricks here, some things you may not have even thought of, one of which I actually discovered about 5 minutes before this class started. So there are several different cloud storage options out there. Some of them are better than others depending on how much storage you need and what features you may need. The big advantage with iCloud Drive over Dropbox or Google Drive, which are the other two that we're mentioning, is that it will back up directly your iPhone or your iPad. You can't really back up your phone or your iPad to something like Dropbox. It just doesn't work that way. You can store certain files, but not, everything. So with that, you can see the pricing options as of today's date. Please keep in mind, if you're watching this on YouTube or our website, every class we teach is a snapshot in time. And as we all know, technology changes quickly, sometimes seemingly overnight. So the prices may have changed by the time some of you may see this class. But as you can see here, everyone gets 5 gigabytes free. It's like with Oprah and cars. You get 5 gigs. You get 5 gigs. Everybody gets 5 gigs. But then for only $1 a month, you can go up to 20 gigabytes. And pretty much if you have an iPhone, an iPad, or a Mac, no matter what, I tend to recommend at least this option. I mean, $1 a month is nothing. The other thing that should be mentioned about comparing iCloud Drive versus some of the other options is that with iCloud, they give you better ability to have smaller plans. You can save a lot of money by going, let's say you need 1 terabyte of data, okay? It doesn't really make sense to get this on iCloud for most people because it's significantly less expensive on either Dropbox or Google Drive. And I'm going to show you their different pricing options as well. But for something like your iPhone or your iPad, that's going to take up no more than 20 gigabytes, certainly. For a lot of you, significantly less. So I do recommend, if you have any of those devices, it's not a bad idea to go with these. Now, once you have iCloud, and this feature that I'm about to show you is only available if you are running the Mac operating system Yosemite. If you're not sure what you have, you can always go to the Apple icon, go to About This Mac, and it will say version 10.10. Okay? Now, iCloud Drive should appear up here in Favorites. If it does not show up, I just want to show you briefly where to go to customize that. You would go up here to Finder, Preferences, and let's move this screen over. Under the Sidebar tab, just make sure that iCloud Drive here is checked, okay? And I made a little interesting discovery today. So one of the things I had recommended in the past to PC users was to basically use Dropbox as one of their primary methods to back up their data. And then what they would do is replace the little links on the side of their screen, where you would normally have your documents folder, with Dropbox. So they just got in the habit of immediately saving files to the cloud. Here's something interesting that I discovered. So within iCloud Drive, you can create folders, and some of these are actually created for you. So watch this, and I'm actually going to do this one from scratch, just so you can kind of see how it works. I'll do that one too, just to make it easy. So of course, to add a folder on a Mac, all you need to do is you need to secondary click and hit New Folder. Okay, so I have a new folder here. That folder is in iCloud Drive, so therefore, I can store this. I can have access to it on my computer. I can access this on my phone, on my iPad, or even any computer if I have access to iCloud.com. So let's just call this folder Documents. I'm actually going to call Documents iCloud to make it easier to follow. Okay? So check this out. There's this weird little bug. I guess it's a bug, maybe. If I attempt to create a shortcut by dragging this folder over here to this list, watch what happens. It doesn't let me. Okay, it wants to put it in a folder, but it won't let me create an actual shortcut here. If it did, it would have like this little line between these items. Okay, so don't ask me why this is, but there's a way around it. If you take a folder on your Mac, or in iCloud Drive rather, and secondary click on it, one of the features is to create an alias. Okay, and an alias is just a reference file. So then what I can do is I can, for whatever reason, take an alias and drop it on the side of my menu bar. So what you could theoretically do is move all of your current documents that are on your Mac into this brand new folder called Documents iCloud. And so then you just kind of remove your old shortcut for documents, and you're just going to automatically start to get in the habit of saving everything to the cloud. One thing I want to clear up about iCloud, since this seems to confuse some people, is if I put data in this folder, I will have access to it both locally on my computer as well as in the cloud. Meaning, if I don't have an internet connection, I can still have access to my documents. Okay. For those of you who have questions about iCloud, I will mention also we have an entire class, an updated class coming out very soon on iCloud. So for Mac users, this is a really good method. And the other thing is that you can do exactly what I just showed you on a Windows computer, because you can now have access to iCloud Drive on a PC. And what I will do is, in order to make this simple, in the description of this video, I will put a link. There's a special piece of software that you do need if you're on a Windows PC in order to have access to iCloud Drive. But what I just showed you, PC users, you can do just as easily. Okay? You just move everything from your normal documents folder into a new documents folder that's stored within the iCloud. Very, very simple. The other thing, let's see here. I'm just going through my notes. Nope, that's it for iCloud Drive. So let's get out of that. Like I said, if you have questions about that, we can go over that in a little bit. All right, next feature I want to talk about here is Dropbox. Okay, now Dropbox has been around for quite a while, and this is, all of these different cloud services have very different business plans, it would seem. So for example, I just mentioned iCloud gives you 5 gigabytes of free storage. Well, Dropbox only gives you 2. Okay. However, if you need a terabyte of data, so 1,000 gigabytes of cloud storage, you can get it for $10 a month, whereas with iCloud, it's $20 a month. So you save 50%. I do believe with this, though, I seem to remember that you have to pay in advance for the year, but don't quote me on that one. The other features that you get with Dropbox that are pretty great, especially for those of you who are in business, is the ability to share files. So let's say I have a company, okay, and I'll give you an example. I'm about to work with a law firm where I live, and they have these big computers that store all the files that the employees need to access. And they brought me in to try to simplify everything. And I said, well, why are you doing this? This is so overly complicated. So what we just simply did was got them a business account with Dropbox. And Dropbox works essentially the exact same way as iCloud Drive. Okay, so you have a little shortcut right here on the left-hand side of your screen, and you can store files in it. But what's great is that you can then share those files or folders with specific people. So let's say, for example, within your company, you have different levels of employees, like most businesses. You can have one folder that is only accessible to people who are listed as administrators, and then another for people who are, the worker bees, if you will, and so on and so forth. Dropbox, you can check it out. Like I said, there's a free version. Here's a little trick I'm going to give you about Dropbox. Is you can actually get slightly more than 2 gigabytes. I believe I can get all of you, I want to say it's 2.5 gigabytes for free. I'll put a link to that in the description of this video. So that's Dropbox. The next one here is Google Drive. Now, for those of you out there who have who use Gmail rather, you already have this built in, and you may just not be aware of it. If you don't have Google Drive installed in your computer, regardless of whether you're on a Mac or a PC, all you have to do is go to drive.google.com. It will detect that you don't have the software currently on your computer and give you a link to download their software. Works exactly the same as Dropbox, very similar features, but check out how much storage they give you. You get 15 gigs for free. If you need 100, it's $2 a month. And at that rate, that's pretty competitive. 1 terabyte, $9.99. You can get actually up to 30 terabytes through Google Drive. Of course, Google, they've got the storage for that. I don't have any clients right now who are using 30 terabytes, but maybe there's someone out there. That's a lot of money per month. So that is another option. And again, Dropbox and Google Drive work basically identically. So these are great examples of methods to store your data in a location other than your computer. And I'm going to give you ways to automate this process in just a little bit. Now, there's other businesses out there, like some of you may have heard of Mozy or Carbonite. Okay, Carbonite and Mozy are competitors. Their pricing is very, very similar. I believe these days Mozy is slightly less expensive. And usually I recommend either of these options as a secondary or tertiary backup for certain businesses. That being said, there is a major downside to both of these that you should be aware of. The big downside to Mozy or Carbonite is that if you use this as a primary backup and your hard drive fails, it can take weeks to get your data back, days to weeks, because when it comes back, it's in zipped files. It is not in the same order that you're used to it. It is a similarly frustrating process to data recovery. Okay, it is emergency data recovery. So if you decide to use either of these options, they're great for what they do. They're very secure, but just understand this should not be a primary, and I'd even argue not even a secondary backup either. But Mozy and Carbonite, both of those are available for both Mac and PC. Next is a piece of software that I want to turn you onto for those of you who are Mac users. And this is really great software, especially for the people out there who have to have zero downtime. Okay, so there's a piece of software called Carbon Copy Cloner, and they make it's made by a company called Bombish, and I have to be very, very careful when I say that because I don't want to accidentally swear on YouTube and get banned. But what's nice about Carbon Copy Cloner, they have two different versions. Okay, one is free, which is what is great for most average people. But for businesses, there's also a pro feature, and I believe the paid version. Let me just look at my notes here. Paid version of Carbon Copy Cloner is $40. And with this, what you can do is have an external hard drive plugged in to your Mac. This is Mac only software. And it will automatically clone your drive. And when I say that, it is the entire drive. So every time you back up, it's the whole computer. It's not just changes like Time Machine, which is why this is a great secondary backup. It's not great as a primary backup. And where this is great, okay, is let's pretend, and this has actually happened to clients of mine. I'm trying to remember the last one. I think it was actually a different law firm that I was working with, where one of their main computers went down, okay, but they were using Carbon Copy Cloner. So if you're on a Mac and your hard drive fails, and you plug in a hard drive that is a clone of your local hard drive, there's this little trick where when you're turning on the computer, you can hold down the Option key, which tells the computer that you want it to boot from a different location other than the local hard drive. So if you've been using Carbon Copy Cloner, you can actually run your computer from that external hard drive. It's really a zero downtime solution. So what I was able to So what I was able to do for these people is, while I was repairing and replacing their hard drive, they were able to plug this backup drive into a different computer, have access to all the same files, and continue as if nothing ever happened. And then when I put in the new drive, I just cloned their data back, and they were back up and running. Again, this is great as a secondary backup for businesses. The next one is a piece of software that is exclusively for Windows, okay? And this is a little piece of software called Dropit. And Dropit is a little bit like Automator for the Mac. It allows you to well, automate certain processes. So let's say, for example, you want to make it so that every time a photo is downloaded into your downloads folder, you want it to automatically copy to Dropbox, okay? And you can ignore the fact that Dropbox actually has that option built into it, so just go with me on this one. With Drop It, you can tell it to automatically detect that type of file and to automatically move it into a different location. The other thing that's great about Drop It is it's free. So you can check that out. This is definitely one of those pieces of software. Please use the link that I provide. If you insist on going, the website is dropitproject.com. And I believe this is available for pretty much every version of Windows these days. So it's a pretty good piece of software and fairly user-friendly. So you can check that one out too. The next one here we have done a class on in the past. It is called Hazel. And Hazel is a little bit like a more simplified, user-friendly version of Automator. By the way, we do have a class on Automator coming up later this month, and so for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, it may in fact already be out. You can search for that on our channel. But Hazel, let me kind of show it to you real quick. Now I have it running right now in demo mode because I was a bad boy and didn't remember to buy it in time. So Hazel, the way it works, it is basically like Automator. You can tell it to automatically detect certain types of files. So here's a perfect example. Okay, if you download a music file, which of course you do totally legally, keep in mind I am not the moral police, it will automatically, if you click on this little pencil icon, you can tell it what to do. So it says if it detects that the file is music, it can automatically move the file into iTunes. And because iTunes has its own library, you can then move it into the trash. Okay, that's just an example of what the software can do. It's also especially great for photos. Okay, for those of you who have photos all over your computer, you can tell it, hey, you know what, just auto-detect it, throw it into iPhoto or whatever other program you may use. Of course, the brand new Photos app for Mac is coming out very soon. Of course, when that happens, we'll have a whole class on it. And also you can have it detect things like duplicate files, so you can really customize Hazel the way you want it. And there's a whole class on Hazel. As I said, it's available either on our YouTube channel or on PCClassesOnline.com. If you want to just give it a trial, you can try it free for 14 days, and then if you want to purchase it, it's $29. Okay? This is more for organization, less for backup. But that being said, you could use this for backup. So for example, let's say you have a lot of files that you maybe don't care about, but the files that you do care about are PDFs. Okay, you could say, hey, if it detects a PDF, automatically move a copy of it into Dropbox, just as an example. Next feature we're going to talk about here is the big one. This is for both Windows and Mac. This is especially designed for people out there who are filmmakers, professional photographers, videographers, okay? Or really just anyone dealing with big data. This is a great device. I've only sold a few of them over the last few years, but they are phenomenally made. It is called the Drobo. This is the ultimate backup solution. And what it is it's a little box. They come in various sizes and storage capacities and connecting methods. One of my favorites, I love the, where is it here? The Drobo 5N, but also the Drobo Mini, for those of you who are on a Mac, is especially handy. Also available on the PC. But what these devices do. So if you've never seen a hard drive, they come in either 2.5-inch or 3.5-inch versions. You can get them now up to, I think they make drives, up to 6 terabytes. I could be wrong about that. But more people tend to buy hard drives in either 1 or 2 terabyte sizes. And with these, they have storage for multiple hard drives. So let's look at this one. Let's look at the Drobo 5N here as an example. So what this does is you take this cover off. Let's see if they have a photo of it that I can show you here. Do they? Here we go. You slip in whatever hard drives you want. And it's really, really simple. You just take whatever hard drive it is and you just throw it in this puppy. And what it does is it massages the data between all of these different drives so that when one drive fails, this little green light turns red. You pop it out, you pop in a new one, and you're good to go. Again, for people who are photographers, especially if you shoot in camera raw format, this device is a lifesaver. And they can connect to your network. That's what the N, by the way, stands for, networking. You can also connect it in through something like USB 3.0 or Thunderbolt, for those of you who have those connections. That's another great solution. So what I would like to do at this point is, those are a lot of the different methods that you can use to back up your data. There are other methods out there. The ones that I'm presenting to you are the ones that I feel are the best that I can recommend. And many of those, we have classes on them. I will have a link to each of those, of course, also in the description of the video. What I'm going to do at this point is, for the people who are here live right now, I'm going to stick around and answer their questions. For those of you who have never attended one of our live classes, it's one of the major benefits. It's also free, by the way. So you can check out those on our website at pcclassesonline.com. But for now, this is David A. Cox. Class dismissed.